Hey friends, the coronavirus vaccine is ready to hit the market, and a recent poll showed that the numbers of people who are willing to take the vaccine is rising. So today we are going to ask some critical questions when it comes to not only the coronavirus vaccine, but how you take care of your health, where you put your trust, and if you're reckless by not taking the vaccine.
The imbalance and interference in the nervous system is what causes disease. It's not the number of people that really matter, it's that individual people matter.
Friends, it's been reported that the vaccine is 90, some reports say 95% effective depending on the manufacturer. The question that you and I need to ask is, what does it mean to be effective? Effective in a lot of people's minds are you reducing the number of coronavirus cases. Maybe you're preventing the coronavirus. Maybe you're minimizing hospital admissions, because isn't that the reason why we started the lockdowns in the first place, is to prevent the hospitals from being overwhelmed? Friends, what they're actually looking at for effectiveness of the coronavirus vaccine is minimizing the symptoms of the coronavirus. Minimizing the symptoms of the coronavirus is not prevention of the coronavirus. Let's be very clear. So here we have a vaccine that its sole intention is to reduce the symptoms of the virus, not necessarily slow down the spread of the virus. Remember, it goes back to overwhelming the hospitals. So the way they're going to justify this is, if you minimize the symptoms of the virus, you're not going to overwhelm the hospitals. In fact, for Moderna's vaccine, the number needed to vaccinate, which is typically what you look at when it comes to prevention, is 167. What does that mean? That means you would need to vaccinate 167 people to even get the benefit of the vaccine for one person. For Pfizer's vaccine, it's 256. It's not about a vaccine manufacturer versus another vaccine manufacturer. We cannot buy into this idea that, hey, let's wait for the vaccine to hit the market and then we're going to all go back to normalcy. You know what that looks like? Is that only for those who uptake the vaccine will there be any sense of normalcy. Ticketmaster recently publicly announced that for the future concerts that will be under Ticketmaster's name, that there will have to be a proof of an antibody test or proof of vaccination. When we talked about that 1 year ago and talked about proof of vaccine records in order to fly, in order to participate in society, in order to go to school and have the privileges, it was considered a conspiracy theory. So here we are. You're going to need, in order to go to a concert, you're going to need vaccine records or previous antibody tests, which means that it had to be recently. How about flying? You saw one airline announce that in order to fly, you're going to need vaccine records. So here we are, friends. We're living in this world where, let's say you're a nursing home resident. Okay, you're in your mid-80s, upper 80s. You've not been able to see your kids or your grandchildren. Now here you are, only with maybe a handful of years left. And here you are, desperately, only wanting to see your kids and grandkids. But COVID has kept you from doing so. But wait, there's an upcoming vaccine that's coming. And if you want to see your kids or grandchildren, again, there's a free pass. All you have to do is take this warp speed rush to market vaccine, and then you'll get your free pass. We'll open the doors and we'll allow you to either go see them or they see you. Hey, concert goers, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to have concerts for you this year due to COVID. But wait, there is this upcoming vaccine. And if you'd like to see concerts again, then all you need to do is get your vaccine, get your COVID pass, make sure you get your health pass or your recent antibody test, and now you'll be able to participate at our concerts with the rest of society. You can see how this plays out. You can see it with flying, you can see it with schools, you can see it with any type of mass gatherings, including hospitals, by the way. You want to go to a hospital, you want to go into a hospital, you want to be a patient in a hospital. Well, you'll need proof of your vaccine records. Friends, I'm not taking this lightly. I'm not trying to be sinister about this. But if you currently watch the news, you're going to have anxiety and you're going to have fear. Yet, if you don't watch the news, you're considered underinformed But if you do watch the news, then you're misinformed. So you're living in a world where it's difficult to participate in society. It's difficult to have any type of normalcy. You have holidays coming up. And the question that I want to ask is, are we now going to cancel Christmas? Are we going to cancel Hanukkah? Are we going to cancel gatherings for religious holidays? Because here we go, friends. We're now trending on something that should be considered a constitutional right. Yet are we setting maybe a precedent coming up that we can trample on constitutional rights and religious freedoms when there's an emergency in place? For the people of faith, this is an important time. The Bible talks specifically in Luke. Jesus says, "Fear not." That was not a suggestion, it was a commandment. Matthew 6:34. "Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself." Mark 5:36. Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not fear, only believe." Luke 12:32. "Fear not, little flock, for it's your own Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." For the people of faith, believers, it's not a suggestion to have faith. It's not a suggestion to have hope. It's not a suggestion to walk in confidence and certainty and faith. It's actually a commandment. This should be a time where you and I anchor to faith, and you and I are intentional with protecting the future generations for their freedoms, for their rights and liberty, to not just pursue happiness, but also to have religious freedom and religious liberties. Friends, if you're not walking around in fear, if you don't have massive anxiety about the situation, if you're not eagerly anticipating the vaccine that is to come, if you're not necessarily eager to give up civil and federal liberties in order to protect the greater good, if for you that seems to be asinine to lay out your arm and inject foreign material for a virus that has a 99.5 plus survival rate, if you're not eager to do those things, that does not make you reckless. That actually makes you informed. But we live in a time of so much misinformation that if you don't watch the news, you're considered underinformed. But if you do watch the news, you are disinformed. So the current thought is that we don't participate. When your workplace tries to enforce a mandatory COVID vaccine in order to keep your job, well, you're there. So it's your job and your choice in that moment. Do you lay down your arm and participate and keep your job, keep your livelihood? Or do you take a stand? When that airline says that you're going to have to get the COVID vaccine in order to fly, well, you're at a crossroads there. Do you participate? Do you figure out a way around it in order to get the exemption so you can still fly on that airline? Or do you take a stand and you boycott that airline? When that big box manufacturer also mandates vaccines for their employees or for their customers, do you figure out a way around it, or do you take a stand and you boycott? Ultimately, life might be harder for a season, but here's what I know, that oftentimes persecution brings out the best in each one of us. And perhaps we're living in a time where it's been easier than it has been in the past. But here's what I know, is that oftentimes that the hard things bring out the best in people. And what did we expect? What did we expect as more and more people were waking up to the idea that injecting yourself with foreign material, including aborted fetal tissue and carcinogenic material, that there was a real problem with doing these things, and that more and more people globally were waking up to it? What did we expect? We did not expect a multi-trillion-dollar industry to just roll over and go away. They're going to do everything they can to get the greatest level of compliance. The challenge for you and I is to not let that cripple us. The fear, the anxiety, the worrying about tomorrow. So for me and my family during this season, during this time in history, what we're doing is we're only filling ourselves up with things that bring us joy and peace and contribute to right thinking. We're protecting our brain, protecting our mind. And I encourage you to do the same. This is a time to be anchored to a community. Make sure you're involved. You know, we're getting more and more involved in our community in civil action and civic duties. And I encourage you to do the same.